Yeah, I think, as he takes the mound for the bottom half, I'm going to take a moment just to appreciate, him doing something really unprecedented. He's done a tremendous deal for our ball club on a micro level, obviously with the talent, the two-way player, but much more broad for baseball. He's just a player that people have to see, want to go see. So it's just been so, a huge benefit to our game, which is great.
Considering this will be a first experience for him, he talked yesterday about there might be some nerves, an uptick in velocity. Do you think just last year as a DH in the postseason, and even if you look at the wild card, that as a position player can prepare him as a starter in this game?
I think, I just believe that his whole life has been about preparing him for big moments. And he never gets out of himself, never lets the emotions of the moment get too big. Seems like he's always under control. He's obviously got a very precise routine. So I expect him to perform well in the box, on the mound, and just control those emotions. But, having him get through the sixth inning in Arizona, so as far as kind of usage, I feel good where he's at.
Okay, Fabian here in the second row.
Yeah, Dave, is Will Smith an option to start this series, and how close is he to that point where you feel comfortable catching him for 9 innings?
He's close. With Will, we just haven't had the chance to do the build-up as far as the rehab, the catching 5 innings, the 6 innings, the 7s, let alone the 9 innings. And he hasn't caught in, 4 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to – I'm trying to find a jumping-off point that would kind of play the middle, the slice. So there's a chance that he can come into tonight's game and kind of, get his feet wet a little bit. So, but yeah, he's close, Fabian. I just don't know when, but he's very close, yes.
And obviously you kind of said that Kershaw was going to be on the roster, but what sort of went into some of the other decisions, putting Bonda on, taking Wroblewski and Henriquez off?
Well, with Henriquez, it was a little bit easier in the sense of the way they construct their lineup. It's heavy left. You got Glass in the pen for this game. We got some other right-handers. It's a lot of left-handed lanes. I think with Robo it was really difficult because he's performed so well, and I can't really justify it, to be honest with you. I think that we just wanted Clayton. Clayton's earned the opportunity to be on this roster. I'm going to use him accordingly. And then also with Bonda, just kind of his skill set is to really, take down left-hand hitters. So specifically. So that was kind of the thought on both those guys.
Okay, we're going to go second row, far left.
Dave, with the Phillies' rotation being so lefty-heavy, how do you envision Max Muncy's playing time shaking out?
So, tonight he's a silver bullet. I can deploy him whenever I want in a leverage spot, which I think is of benefit. Not sure. I talked to Max before this series and said that we obviously knew what we were coming into, and he is adamant that whatever it takes to help this team win, and there could be a big spot at any point that could kind of change the game. So he'll be ready when called upon, but I really can't speak to when he's going to start, if he's going to start, because also Miggy Rowe's been great too against left-handed pitching, so I see him getting a start as well.
And how is Tommy's ankle holding up now? And how do you see his playing time also this series?
I think it's holding up, not getting any worse, not getting much better. I feel that having him start taking a few at-bats each night against the starter is a benefit to us. And then I'll kind of keep an eye on him as the game progresses if we need to get him off his feet to get him ready for the next one.
Okay, we're going to go Jack in the third row on the left.
Dave, what are the challenges of just facing as much left-handed pitching as you guys probably will this series?
I wouldn't say they're talented. That's the main challenge, that they're really good. The good thing is that the guys that play get the same look, essentially. The downside is, not being able to run Max out there as much as I probably would like. But again, in the postseason, I'm trying to go with the best, 9 guys to start the game, and then each guy should and might have an opportunity to help us win a ball game that particular night. But, I guess, Jack, these guys are just really talented guys.
And then with your left-handed relievers, like how much do you think some of them learned having faced these guys a couple weeks ago and just, obviously seeing how dangerous they can be?
We learned a lot. You learn that you have to make pitches. You can't. You got to sequence the right way. Yeah, I mean they're good, and they're certainly a momentum team when they get momentum. Certainly in this ballpark, but you got to make pitches. They're aggressive early, and I guess it goes both ways because we got some good hitters too, and we just got to make pitches.
Okay, first row down here, Dave, on the right.
You referenced the talent. I was going to ask you, separate from that, is there a character trait or two that comes to mind about this team beyond the talent that makes them go as well as they have this year?
I think obviously, Harper on the broader kind of city of Philly and kind of, wrapping his arms around the city and vice versa. But I think, inside the clubhouse, you can see it pretty clear that Schwarber's kind of toughness, they feed off that. Yeah, I mean, and again, they pitch really well. But I think those two guys are sort of the heartbeat of that club. But I don't know much.
Gonna go to Jay in the middle.
Hi, Dave. So you're gonna using 12 pitchers for 5-game series. Do you feel comfortable about it? And then you didn't using Haesung last series, and how do you gonna utilize him in this series?
Well, we're going with the 12 because the off days in between the games, we have to carry 3 catchers because of where Will's at. Obviously, with Tommy's uncertainty, Max coming back recently, having the extra infielder Haesung is huge. And as far as how I'm going to use them, to run off the bench, to potentially taking it bad off the bench, but there's a lot of lefties in that lineup, and so, but Haesung, it's good to have him on the roster, and I feel he's going to help us out at some point.
Okay, we're gonna go far left in the back.
Dave, you mentioned the starters potentially pitching in relief. It's something you've done before a little bit in the postseason. Are there some general risks or concerns, or maybe you have to treat those guys different than a regular reliever when you do that?
I think that, what I have learned is you've just got to just rip the Band-Aid off. And I think that there's always uncertainties, but I've learned you make a decision, you live with it. I'm going to go with the best talent who's ever available that night, if it makes sense. Roki was a starter his whole life, and he's come out of the pen and pitched fine. We did it years ago with other pitchers, and other teams have done it. We got beat in 18 because, AC ran a bunch of starters at us. So it can happen. There's no guarantee. So you just got to kind of have conviction and, bet on the guys that you're going to run out there.
Could take one more here in the middle. Howard?
Hi, Dave. We've talked about Will Smith in the past, and obviously there's always a balance to strike with, how much he's catching, and, he prefers to catch even the DH, which is no longer an option. And so I just wonder, with the year that he has had, where, obviously the hitting was even better than it's been the last couple, how much harder did it make for you to not play him from day to day? And so how do you figure that out for your starting catcher now and going forward with Will, once he's healthy again?
I think once he's healthy, it's easy because of the off days in the postseason. The balance is in the regular season getting him to the end of the year, the finish line. And so a lot of conversation with Will trying to figure out what's best for him. And obviously we had Dalton Rushing cut his teeth this year, which was very helpful for him and his growth. But I think once we get Will back and feeling good, we're just going to let him run.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thanks, guys.
Dodgers President Andrew Friedman will be in shortly. Okay, we'll open up for questions for Andrew. We'll start here on the left. Kirsten, first row.
Andrew, I know we've talked a lot about just Tyler and Clayton going to the bullpen, and of course Tyler hopefully will have that Game 4 start, but when you look at just them in this role right now, how beneficial has it been considering the seasons that they've had and kind of the boost they could add to that group?
Yeah, it's big. We talked about it before the last round. I think one real strength of this roster is our starting pitching. Because when you're in a position where Emmett Sheehan can pitch out of the pen, Clayton Kershaw, last round Glass, it speaks to that depth. Those guys are really talented, and I can see factoring in and helping us win a series.
Next question. We go here to Jake in second row on the left.
At what point during Roki's rehabilitation process during the year did it become apparent to you that using him as a legitimate weapon out of the pen in October was a possibility?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to early in the season. Delivery was kind of out of whack a little bit, and we've seen it a lot with guys that have had hamstring injuries or oblique injuries or different things. That in that buildup, there's subconscious protection of that, and sometimes deliveries can get somewhat out of whack, and then that becomes kind of muscle memory, and it's hard to unwind. And you couple that with a player coming over from Japan, and it takes time to build a relationship. It takes time to create that trust, and then you compound that with some shoulder soreness, and I think all of it kind of led to this process where we ended up in a really good spot, but it takes some time. The biggest and most important thing was to get him back feeling right. And then once that happened, then it was, okay, let's attack the delivery and try to get that back in place. And it took a little while, but I think once we saw that click is where it was like, okay, this is a very viable option to be a really talented pitcher who can help us get really important outs.
Okay, we're going to go to Jack, third row on the left.
With just Shohei's, the two-way thing, both what it does for the roster and just what he provides on the field, does that become even more pronounced in a postseason setting with the roster flexibility? It gives you the ability to manage his workload a little bit easier with the days off that are baked into a postseason schedule. Does it become especially effective this time of the year?
Yeah, I think it's certainly helpful. I think, for Show, we can't even begin to fathom what it's like to do both things, especially with the added intensity of the postseason. So I think getting a day off between games 1 and 2 after game 2, I think it's all helpful. There's no question that it's taxing. It's taxing on everybody, and then you layer on, his ability to do both, and it's challenging. And I'm glad last year he got to experience the adrenaline of October with just hitting. And now this year we get to layer both on. I think in some weird way it's actually beneficial. But yeah, I think the days off certainly are helpful.
Okay, we're going to go in the third row right there, Howard.
Hi, Andrew. Will Smith, obviously, ahead of getting hurt, the year he had was a cut above even his last 2 All-Star campaigns. And sort of 2 parts on this. One is, I'm wondering what you saw that allowed him, the batting average went up, the edge velocity went up, but also just in terms of playing time, DHing is not an option, obviously. And so, you've got Dalton, you have Will signed long-term. How do you see all that shaking out, and how do you figure out what the right workload is for him going forward?
Yeah, I think the last 2 years going into this year, he's had great years, but, a little bit of a fall off late in the year, and so we've been conscious of kind of workload and how to manage that. Having Rush definitely helped with that some, and so I think just managing that all a little bit better, I think, allowed him to kind of sustain that high level of play longer. Unfortunately, he had the fluke injury with the foul ball off his hand, but he's in a good spot. We've had the chance to kind of ramp him up, get him some live at-bats and do things. Now, there's no replicating what you go through in a 9-inning game, and so we'll have to figure out how to do that and get him in a position where he can, resume what he does, because he's such an important part of our team. Long-term, he'll continue to be a very important part of our team. I don't know. I'm so focused on right now.
Okay, Fabian, second row.
Yeah, Andrew, how much of an appreciation have you gained over the last couple of years of Shohei's his relationship with pitching specifically in that part of his game?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this a lot. I think he's underrated. I just don't think the human brain can comprehend what he does and how difficult it is and how elite he is at both. And the passion he has for hitting and the passion he has for pitching. It doesn't seem like there's enough passion to go around, but there is with him. And he really cares about being great at everything he does. And so watching his rehab process and that build up and just how focused he was, how intent he was every day on the work he was doing to get himself back in a position to be able to go take the ball and pitch really well. It wasn't just about pitching for him. It was about pitching really well. Nothing surprises me anymore, but yet everything still surprises me. He's just one of a kind.
You said a couple weeks ago that you think he's one of the best pitchers in the National League. When did you start to see that he was back to that point after surgery?
I think you could see glimpses of it with certain games, with a couple pitches being there and a couple not, and then the next game, he had other things working, and you see that with guys, and it's just about how to sync it all up. And so it's not surprising to me that he did. And once he had that full arsenal working, he's a really tough at bat. And just the compete is so great that you take that combination and it equals really good things.
Okay, Bill, in the middle on the left.
Yeah, Andrew, numbers say your lineup isn't particularly vulnerable to left-handed pitching, despite Ohtani, Freeman, Muncy. What are the challenges facing 3 consecutive left-handed starters in this series?
Yeah, I mean, it's not even just the left-handedness. They're really good. So even beyond handedness, those guys are really good. One of their strengths is their starting rotation. One of our strengths is our starting rotation. Watching those two worlds collide, I think, will be great. There's some nostalgia around these kind of starting pitching matchups. But, yeah, those guys are really good, and I think, we've gotten a chance to see them a few times, which is helpful. And I think our guys do a really good job of kind of understanding our game plan and sticking to it. Our offense has really come to life. It's not an easy lineup to navigate, but obviously those guys are going to be a real challenge.
Okay, we're going to go all the way in the back to Bill on the left. Nope, straight back there, yeah.
Andrew, there are some guys who have been so distinguished in their roles that I wonder if teams have to worry about asking them to do something else. And the guy I'm asking about specifically is Kershaw, who's been so distinguished. Any trepidation at all about asking him to work in relief?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there obviously always is with someone of that stature, but to Kersh's credit, he cuts off that timidness in a way by saying, hey, I'm here to win, like whatever it takes. And he's loved watching these guys compete. Obviously, he's done really well this year as well. Usually when a guy's on his way out, it's like, okay, it's time. You can kind of see it, and performance really backs up. That's not the case with Kersh. He was a big part of the success we had this year. But to his credit, he cut it off really early and just said, hey, I just want to be a part of this and help this team win whatever way I can. And so he helped make that conversation way easier.
Far left against the wall, Matt.
Andrew, I'm wondering, as you've become one of the more tenured head of baseball operations in the sport, how has your relationship with Dave Dombrowski evolved over the years?
Dave and I have had a really good relationship. We have never really been in the same division, kind of going at it, and have only squared off once, I think, in the playoffs in 18. I think that, but had a really good relationship. He was, already fairly seasoned when I came in, and it's been a good relationship and it's continued. I think we communicate really well together. And obviously, there are certain guys that it's easier to trust when they say something, and Dave is certainly at the top of that list.
Yeah, it's feeling good. It's really close to 100%. Yeah, looking forward to being out there playing, hoping the team win.
Next question. Jack on the left.
We haven't seen a lineup yet, but are you going to start tonight?
I don't think so, no, but I'll definitely be able to come off the bench and be in there.
How, as you're getting closer to 100%, is it more just like kind of building up the strength of the swing and the throwing after not playing for a couple weeks that you're that's the process now?
Yeah, pretty much. It's it's definitely still the rehabbing on the hand, but definitely making sure the shoulder's not getting banged up, the hips, the legs, all that. Just kind of getting my feet back under me. So yeah, we're just trying to be smart about it. It's a long month, but also there's some urgency to win now, obviously. So just trying to kind of weigh both of those and go from there.
Second row on the right, Dave.
Well, when you talk about what you can do and what you can't do, are you able to come into the game and possibly catch the final 2 or 3 innings if that was like a double switch situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I could go 9 innings right now and be good.
Okay, we're going to go to Howard in the back on the right.
Well, just in terms of like bigger picture this season, ended up at around 100 games caught, just down a little bit, but you had, not only the best offensive season of your recent past, but also specifically on fastballs. It seemed like you were getting around better on them, and the average advance was solid. I'm just wondering whether you think you found a sweet spot in terms of rest and the ability to be productive going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the game volume was down just because I missed all of September. But yeah, I think just got in a really good spot with the hitting coaches with my swing, made some adjustments from last year, and then was able to be really consistent with the swing, So I think that kind of more so is why, as opposed to being rested more or anything like that.
Okay, first row here, right?
You've had the opportunity, if I'm not mistaken, to be in the playoffs every year you've been in the majors, is that right? I know it's pretty rare or it's rare for someone to be able to say that. How do you then come into the playoffs? Is it kind of just, this is normal for me, this is what I'm part of? Not that it's, it's not all you, obviously, but it's part of a normal season for you in a way.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I'm with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and that's why I wanted to be here. My whole career was a chance to play in the postseason every year. No team's committed more to winning a World Series each and every year than the Dodgers, and that's what I want to be a part of. I love the challenge each and every year and the goal, and that's kind of what we try to do every year is win a World Series, and that's who I am. That's what I want to be a part of.
Does it help normalize things for you so it seems like just a seamless part, just continuing right along?
Yeah, I mean, definitely have had a lot of experience, winning 2 World Series and losing a few. So, it's learning from the mistakes when we lost and, trying to apply what we did well last year, what we did well in 2020, and, bring it to this year.
Next question for Will. We good? Oh, we got one more, Howard, in the back, right?
Well, just to kind of follow up on what we were saying, it seems like, and we've talked about this before, where you're more comfortable when you're catching in terms of your overall hitting. And I'm wondering whether, you think that balance is the one that is continuing to be the one that's best for you. Again, like you said, your games per week were real similar, if not a little bit higher this year, and the production was really significant all the same.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you don't want more DH time going forward in your career?
I mean, we got a pretty good DH, so
Right.
I think we're pretty set on that.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Will, appreciate it.
Yep.